So in the previous lecture, we have discussed how to create a project and how to create a library. So in this lecture, we'll discuss how to create a data source so that SAS Enterprise Miner can access the data set. So in order to use the SAS file in the library, we need to define a data source for the project. A data source basically stores all the metadata of the input data set. So we will use the project called start we created last time. So go to the virtual machine. Now click SAS Enterprise Miner. And then because we're going to open an old project or existing project, so we'll click Open Project. And my project are stored in W folder, MGMT 571. And the project called Start. Alright, so that's the project we created last time, and we also have a library available. And then next step, we're going to discuss how to create a data source. So click File, New, and Data Source. And the source is SAS table, so that's a SAS file. And we're going to select a SAS table. So find the library you just created, that's called HMEQ, and the table is called HMEQ. So we click OK. And then next. And here's a summary of the table. Basically, we have 13 variables, including one target variable and 12 input variables. And we have 5,960 observations. And here in the option, we'll choose advanced options. All right, so here's the column part of the data set. So we have 13 variables. Make sure the variable bad is our target variable. So that's to say we need to change the role of the bad variable from input to target. So that's important. Okay, make sure you change that. So as you can see from the options here, we have many options for the roles. So the common used one are input, that refers to X in your data analysis. And a target, that refers to Y in your data analysis. And sometimes we also use rejected. Reject means this variable is not used in the remaining analysis. Alright, after we specify row, and then next one is called level. So level, that's called a measurement level. That's referred to the levels of each name. So for example, bad is binary because it has value 1 and 0. And for example, job is nominal because we have 6 categories of the job. And we also have the binary for reasons. So that's the level for the feature variables. So after we specify that, we just hit next. We will not change the decision process. And here, do you wish to create a sample data set? Because our data is very small, so we will use the whole data for the analysis. If the data is large, then you can specify the percentage of samples you're going to use for the analysis. And then hit next. And now you can just create a data source for the analysis. And then next, we'll discuss, after we create a data source, the next step is to create a diagram. So we're going to create a process flow diagram such that the SAS Enterprise Miner can do the remaining data analysis. So to create a diagram, click File, New, Diagram. And here you can specify the name of your diagram. For example, we can use HMEQ analysis. Alright, so now you can see the working window for the diagram. So that's the place we're going to do all the analysis. So in order to do the analysis, the first step is always to load the file for the analysis. So to load the file, there are typically two ways to do that. First, if you have created a data source, if you have SAS file, create a data source, then you can easily just drag the file to the workspace. So in our case, because we have created a data source called HMEQ, we just drag that here. And now you see we have the HMEQ node. So basically, this means we have loaded the data to the working space for our remaining analysis. So sometimes we don't have a SAS data file. Instead, we have other files like a CSV file. And here we'll discuss how to load a CSV file or non-SAS file. So in order to do that, we will use a node called file import. So to use the file import, just right click and see add node. And then find the file import. So called file import. Okay. And then click the file import. Because we're going to load a CSV file, we need to specify where is the file. So if you look at the left hand side of this property panel, then you can specify where's your import files. So to do that, you just click import files and then import from our local machine. So my CSV file is stored in folder called data, and we have the CSV data file. I just open that and hit OK. Alright, so after we load the path of the file, we can run this node. So to run this node, you can right click and then there's an option called run. If you click run and then yes, basically we'll tell SAS Enterprise Miner to load this CSV file from the local machine. After finish, you will see a write check. Alright, so now you see has loaded the data file, and then to change the variables, make sure in our data set we have one target variable and 12 input variable. So we need to change the role of the bat from input to target. Okay, so make sure to change that before you do any analysis. And then hit OK. So now we have, and then run that. We have just load the CSV file and also correct the model role of the variables. All right. So far we have discussed two ways to load the data file. If you have a SAS file, you can use a data source, create a data source, and then load the data source directly to the working space. Or if you have a CSV file or other non-SAS file, you can use file import node in the SAS EM toolbar, and then make sure correct the variables after you load the data. All right, so far we just load the data, and then next lecture we're going to discuss how to create a process flow diagram for the remaining analysis.